Highlights of race 3 then. A very, very tumultuous race. It started in practically dry conditions with an early lead for Jonas Karklis. An early contact though, Charles Dawson and Cristiano Mathiel unfortunately colliding at the first corner. Mathiel would go no further. Charles Dawson's car would make it to the end of the first lap, but then it would also retire. Safety car out then to collect the number 50, and then the race got back underway. Karklis leading Thomas Anderson, Jerzy Spinkovic in third, and then in fourth place was Moritz Viskirchen. Thomas Anderson sparring a little bit with Jerzy Spinkovic as Haya was incredibly keen to try and make up some positions, of course, as he tries to compete for that overall title this season in the GT Win Series. For Simon Orange, it was a very good first stint. He would hand the car over to Marcus Clutton critically, with seemingly quite a lot of temperature in those tyres. It was getting wet around the circuit. Jonas Karklis was pressing on, waiting to see if it would get wet before handing the car over to Luca Engsler. Clutton, though, was driving past people like they were standing still. Granted, Moritz Viskirchen, who took over the number 1 car, made that quite easy for him. But in general, Clutton just seemed to have the edge, driving the slicks in slippery conditions. He soon got his way past Simon Birch as well. Birch, one of the quickest young talents out there, but even he was struggling in the wet conditions. The number 8 car came in to get some wet tyres on the car. It looked like an inspired move for maybe a lap or two, but then unfortunately it started to struggle. The weather started to turn towards the slick tyres once again. This was Jerzy Spinkovic moving past into, at the time, the race lead. So this is actually before the tyre switch, actually, my apologies. So we were still on slicks for the top 2 at that point. Danny Sufi was struggling on his slick tyres, getting overtaken by no fewer than 3 cars on the way into the first corner there. Moritz Viskirchen, I think slightly scaring Shorter Abgazava there, coming out of turn 13. And this was Marcus Clutton closing in and getting past Luca Engsler, and shortly thereafter also making his way by the number 25 of Jerzy Spinkovic. Clutton was on slicks, but he just had more temperature in the tyres, and both Jerzy Spinkovic and Luca Engsler would eventually opt to switch over to those wet tyres. Number 333 machine of Milos Pavlovic was struggling a little bit. He was sticking with the slick tyres. He would doggedly stick to them for the duration of the race. Oh, goodness me, as Ahmed Arif Al-Ghahuri did a very good job there not to get collected by the recovering Kalle Bergman. Even Marcus Clutton wasn't infallible, as the conditions only got scarier out there on the circuit. And that was the story at this point of the race. Slicks off, wets on, and it was looking like the right move for only about 5 or 10 minutes. Ahmed Arif Al-Khoury did switch tyres, but unfortunately the car was just not manageable in the tricky conditions. These half-wet, half-dry, greasy weather, no one's friend. And lots of drivers were exploring the outer limits of the track, trying to find grip, trying to find purchase wherever they could. By this time in the race, it was suddenly the wets that were failing and faltering for some drivers out there on the circuit. Marcus Clutton, who was doggedly sticking to it though all through the race, by the end he was pounding in fast laps, and even though the weather tried to turn against him at one point, he was unstoppable in that race, ultimately leading and winning by 17 seconds. Mikael Mack, who also stayed on slicks throughout the race, he's 17 seconds off the lead and winning in Cup 1. Jerzy Spinkovic third overall for Unique Racing. A question mark hanging over the head of that car because they made a second stop for tyres, but it was less than 2 minutes, which is technically against those regulations. Milos Pavlovic, the 333 car, in fourth overall. Moritz Viskirchen in fifth place, the SR by Schnitzelau machine in P5. Simon Birch in sixth position and rounding out the class podium in GT3. Luca Engsler in seventh place ultimately in GT3 Pro. Shorter Abkazava in eighth place for Artline. Ahmed Arif Al-Khoury in ninth position. And Danny Sufi rounding out the top 10. A frustrating race for him. He was very scarcely on the right tyres at the right time during his stint after taking over from Carrie Schreiner. Kalle Bergman in P11. In second among Cup 2 behind Alkuri, who won the class. Jonas Gelzinis finishing up those who took the flag. Vjatovic, Dawson and Mathiel all withdrawing from the race in the early stages. So